Yeah, Weege Show coming your way from my office. It's very late East Coast time, but don't worry, we will get you to Houston and NRG Stadium. Kellen Brauer is out there. We'll have the Weege Show telling you key stories from riders off of the podium who you probably have not heard on the television broadcast. But I will wrap up what the podium riders had to say because I participated in the official Monster Energy Supercross Zoom conference, and I have some of that recorded, and I'll drop in some quotes there. But first, a shout out to our sponsors, Racetech. You know the gold valves. Your suspension will be plusher, better bottoming resistance, more traction. It's all made and engineered in the USA. So go to racetech.com and do not forget that Racetech, people buy components, people visit seminars. Suspension shops around the country are schooled in the Racetech way. So you don't have to just be near the Racetech shop itself to get Racetech suspension on your motorcycle. That's kind of the cool thing about gold valves too. They'll just mail you one. It's a revalve kit in a box. So let's talk about Houston. It was building to a crescendo. Eli Tomac wins the first two rounds. Chase Sexton kind of quiet. That's a big battle everyone wanted to see in 2023. And then boom, the 23 comes out strong at the third race. He was the best rider at the Triple Crown Anaheim 2, hands down. And then that kept building even more because Sexton was unbelievable in Houston qualifying. And even more unbelievable, if something can get to a different tier of how unbelievable it was, maybe it's kind of like, I can't believe I just won the lottery, but I really, really can't believe that aliens just landed on Earth. It was like, that's what we saw from Sexton in his heat race. He blew by Eli Tomac in the whoops, and there was nothing Eli could do about it. Very rare that you see Eli Tomac out front, and he just simply couldn't go fast enough to beat someone else. But that's how fast Sexton was going. And that crescendo was building into the main because Tomac got out front again and they were stalking him. They were all over him. And not just Sexton. Jason Anderson was running his pace. And Aaron Plessinger, who's quietly been riding very well. The great Justin Brayton said he's probably been the best rider that people haven't noticed through the first couple rounds. He just needed to start and he had one. And he was stalking Tomac. Then a red flag came out when Dylan Ferrandis fell down. Kellen will have an update on Ferrandis in a moment. And that led to the staggered restart. And I was wrong. Normally, the staggered restart, we don't like to have it because it takes a red flag and a guy getting hurt to create it. But I like what it does for the racing. And I'm like, man, Tomac was barely holding these guys off before the restart. And now it's about to be a 4 or 5 rider duel. But Tomac actually got better. He got better after the restart. And it was up to Sexton to try to run him down. Sexton got around Anderson. He started closing and closing and closing. What changed? Why could Sexton not catch Tomac in the main the same way he did in the heat?
Eli really figured out the sand section later in the race and was going outside. And I was going to the inside, which I felt like was not fast, but I wasn't super comfortable going around the outside. I almost fell there earlier in the race. So I was just sticking to the inside and I felt like I could have walked through it faster than I was going through. But Eli really figured out the sand. And that was, I think, where I lost a lot of time every lap. I was trying, every time I get through the sand, I try to make up time throughout the rest of the track, and it just wasn't really working. So other than that, I rode pretty well. I didn't make too many mistakes. Just really was struggling in the sand section.
Yeah, that was a tough situation for Sexton because he almost fell twice going outside of the sand. He had gotten around Plessinger, and Plessinger almost got him back, and Sexton almost fell. So at that point, he did not want to go outside in the sand anymore. He stuck to the inside. It cost him dearly. And how about those whoops where he was blowing by Tomac in the heat? Well, a intrepid reporter asked him if they were different in the main. Yeah, thanks, Jason for Racerex. Chase, you were unbelievably fast early in the day in the whoops, and you're still pretty good in the main, but just talk about how different it is when we see those hot lap times in qualifying in the heat and what the whoops are actually like in the main event.
Completely different. The main event, even the heat race, they were pretty not smooth, but they weren't super edgy. And then in the main event, they almost get like a rut in them and a really big ledge on top of them. And that's something I'm still working on. I definitely was okay in them, at least up until the 10-minute mark. And then I kind of lost a little bit of speed. But yeah, they're completely different. It's so hard to replicate that during the week and especially all day. I mean, all day they never looked like they did just now. So something I'm still working on.
So that's that. You have to give Tomac credit for persevering. I don't think the Eli Tomac of 2017, 2018 would have rebounded his night like this. But as I've been saying all year, he is the total package now. He has all the speed and all the strength and all the beast mode things that Eli Tomac was great for before. But the mental side is better and the starts are better. And that's making him hard to beat even when he's not necessarily the best rider. I mean, the best lap times were thrown down by Sexton. But Tomac wins the race. So I guess that does make him the best rider. He didn't do it on speed. He did it because he knew what to do when it counted. Take us through what happens between the heat and the main. I mean, is it just a matter of getting fired up and focused, or did you actually look at the lines or make changes to the motorcycle? Because obviously you were a lot better.
Yeah, no adjustments to the motorcycle. Just tried to be better, try to be better down the rhythm lanes. Really focused on not missing the triple quad. I missed that a ton in the heat race. I probably missed it more than I did jump it. So I had that in my head. They did happen to make it a little more forgiving in the main event, but it was still really steep, really technical. And that was it. And then other than that, my goal was just to get out front and hopefully just, be a pest out front. Because to be honest, I was like, I can't hang, after that heat race. And then, I don't know, things just changed in the main.
Okay, that's the story from the 450 class. Jason Anderson rode well, got third, but that one probably looked a little too much like what we saw in Pro Motocross last summer, where he rode very well, got third, but couldn't quite match what Tomac and Sexton had in front of him. He did mention that the new shock that he was running this year, I think it's one of those BFR shocks. He's taken that off. He's gone back to the shock that he ran last year. He thinks the new shock has great potential, but right now, for where he's riding, he's going back to last year's setup, and he's still happy with his progress compared to where he was at the first couple of races. Kellen will have some news and notes from riders off of the podium. I just want to give a shout out to Justin Cooper, who we are constantly sleeping on. I had been preparing this unbelievable rant of the Monster Energy Yamaha Star team. If they did not let him race some 450 races, they did. They let him come out in Houston. I didn't even know that was coming until a couple days before, and he rode awesome. He was better than the other rookies out there, and he even passed Ken Roczen and beat him on the last lap. That is amazing stuff. Or is it? I don't think this is like, wow, I just won the lottery, or aliens just landed on Earth. I think we've been sleeping on how good Justin Cooper is. If it wasn't for the high-flying, high-profile of the Lawrence brothers, we'd probably be talking about Justin Cooper being the next guy to move into the 450 class. And when he actually moved into the 450 class, we barely even realized it was happening. It was like, wait, Justin Cooper's here? He's in a 450? We should have been better than that. But then again, they went super low profile and super weird with him starting at Houston and missing the first couple rounds. And I don't even know how many of these he's going to do. So shout out to him for riding really well. We probably shouldn't be surprised. Justin Cooper has never really not been good when he goes into races healthy. He's pretty much been good in every pro race he's ever been in. Okay, enough about that. Let's talk 250s, including those Lawrence brothers. Hunter Lawrence wins. He didn't dominate early in the day, but he did what he had to do. Tom Vial rode very, very well, leading early on. That had to be exciting, making his debut in the U.S., the two-time MX2 world champion from MXGP. He did eventually made some mistakes, fell off the podium, and Hunter just did what he needed to do, besides a brief off-track excursion early in the race where Vial almost took him down. He said he's not mad at Vial. It's just the way it goes sometimes at racing. He tried to shut the door on him, and Hunter was good. Yeah, Jason from Racer X. Hunter Lawrence, take me to the approach to the weekend. You were so close to a title 2 years in a row. Did you want to come out and immediately establish yourself? But instead, it almost seemed more like you built and got better as the day went on. So what was your approach?
Yeah, I mean, not like trying to come out and establish anything. Like, I'm confident what I can do on a bike, and I know where I could have been better last year. So just trying to do that. Qualifying was a little rough, just trying to get all the segments on one lap. When all my best segments, I was, able to have a pole lap time, but just couldn't seem to put them on one lap. So we'll work on that a bit more this week. And it's about it, really. Just happy to execute. Worked on our starts. We had 2 great starts in the heat and the main. So yeah, it was a pretty good day overall. Now,
I'd love to give you quotes from Max Anstey, but he talks so much and so well. We'll probably just save that for another video later on. It's an amazing story for Max to jump into the 250 class and top both practice sessions. Unbelievable. So Max is fast and he's super happy, and he's just loving focusing on Supercross, which he had not done since he raced the series in 2010. Then he was hurt when he tried it 2 years ago. Then last year he was okay, but he's in the 450 class. He's loving this 250 thing. Shout out to the Firepower Honda team. And Jordan Smith, who took it on the chin. His chin looks pretty tough, though. I think he could probably take a punch. But he admits a lot of the fans thought maybe he didn't deserve this ride.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I just try not to think about it. But definitely, it seemed like about 90% of fans thought that I probably wouldn't even be at the first round. I'd already be hurt. So, It's the team, the support from the team has been unbelievable. Bobby, Swanee, Jensen, the whole team, they believed in me since day one.
Well, Jordan Smith is here, and he's back, and he's on the podium. And I have a feeling Jordan Smith's going to get a lot better from here. You've got to walk before he can run. And he's barely even raced the last couple years. So just take a podium. Even with a brief tip over in the sand, he'll take it. I think he's going to be a lot better going forward. Okay, and we're going forward. Let me send it to Kellen Brauer in Houston.
Yeah, Weege Show live and on site here at NRG Stadium here in Houston. Kellen Brauer bringing you guys a little bit of a synopsis of the night here. I'm sure Jason Weigandt kind of broke down the podium finishers, but we just got done talking to a bunch of people. Red Bull KTM guys here, Cooper Webb and Aaron Plessinger, kind of breaking down their nights a little bit. I guess jumping right into it, AP said that he was pretty stoked with how everything went today, how he felt today. Was a little bit bummed that the intensity kind of died down, I guess, for him after the restart. He just didn't feel kind of the same level of comfort, the same level of, I don't know, urge to be up there, I guess, to some degree. But he was really happy with his riding. He felt like settings-wise, the bike was a lot better this week for him. And we talked about him driving through the whoops a little bit better, and he was pretty happy about that as well. So kind of cool insight from AP. Also talked to Cooper Webb, and he kind of explained to me that settings-wise, he was maybe a little bit off today. He himself said that it was more on him, but he kind of also explained that he's kind of built the KTM to be a really good turning bike, right? Like it turns down hard out of corners, it turns low in corners, especially when the track breaks down. And this track kind of didn't break down that much tonight. It was really fast. The ruts stayed high in the corners. There's a couple corners that broke down and there were some low ruts. But Coop said, though, when you don't have those low ruts that cut down and it's a lot about arcing your corners and staying high, he just isn't quite comfortable enough with the front end of the KTM just yet, I guess, to attack those zones. And that's what he felt a little bit off tonight, He still gets a fifth, he still gets decent points, but I think for him it was a big miss when, Eli wins and now he falls even further back in the point standing. So that's kind of a little bit of a 450 class synopsis, but there was so much to talk about in this 250 class tonight as well. I guess what I should end the 450 class was saying is talked to Jeremy Coker down here at Monster Energy Yamaha Star Racing a little bit ago and asked him the update on Dylan Ferrandis, and he said that Ferrandis just has a concussion. He was actually in the Alpine Stars medical unit when I was talking to Coker and said that that's all it was, at least to their knowledge at that point in time, was a concussion, which is, like, thankfully, if you saw Dylan Ferrandis down on the floor, I guess, concussions are not great, but I mean, you can think of a whole lot of worse things going on when he's laying on the floor for a minute and a half not moving at all. So the fact that it is just a concussion as a prognosis, maybe he's out a couple weeks or whatever, and concussions aren't great, but at the end of the day, I think that's a better sign than a bunch of broken bones or maybe something to do with his neck or something, because they also put a soft brace around his neck, and we're gonna put him on a backboard, and then he stood up. So that was exciting to see. The fans obviously got super pumped to see Ferrandis stand back up and walk to the cart, which is, anyway, incredible. So that's kind of a synopsis from the 450 class, just a little bit there. But like I said, 250 class, a lot of different storylines. Weege Show already broke down the podium guys, but beyond that, we talked to Hayden Deegan, who in his debut finishes P4. I mean, he rode just the exact kind of race that Hayden Deegan should have raced here tonight. Very steady, measured performance. Clicked off a few guys. He passed Jeremy Martin straight up. He even said to me that he was blown away when that happened. He's like, what, I'm passing Jeremy Martin? That's crazy. And then just rode it into fourth when a couple other guys went down. Vial went down. He said it was cool passing Vial in the whoops and seeing his speed performance there when he struggled earlier in the whoops today as well. And he even told me in his heat race that, like, he came out guns blazing and was like, wait a minute, like, we got to slow it down here and check ourselves before we wreck ourselves a little bit. So kind of cool insight from that. We also talked to Chance Hymas, who of course is making his debut for Honda HRC. And yeah, he kind of said a lot of the same things. He was trying to remain measured about the day. He didn't really want to overstep where he felt like he should be at this point in time. And rode a nice steady race. Again, just said that he kind of ticked boxes, like hit goals that he had set for himself to kind of do here tonight, and knocked all those off for the most part, and felt good doing it. And he said it was cool to see his name up there, P3 in free practice overall early on in the day. So stuff like that was also pretty cool to see for Chance Hymas as well. Gosh, who else we talked to? I talked to Michael Mosiman as well. He didn't really want to be interviewed. I said, you don't have to if you don't want to, but he said, no, let's talk. Like, I got to do it. And he's pretty open. He just felt like it wasn't his day. He felt like he was missing some intensity. He felt like he was missing some pieces mentally as well. That was pretty cool to hear him say that mentally there were some things that weren't really clicking. But, you know, ends up 6th tonight, so it just kind of wasn't really where we expected to see Moseman. And then, yeah, so we talked to Chance Hymas right here. Obviously, Hunter Lawrence gets to win tonight, but I think that was a lot of people kind of maybe expecting that coming in. Also talked to Talon Hawkins down here, who finished 11th, and very progressive day for Hawkins. Said he just slowly got better and better and better and better. And by the end of the night felt a lot more comfortable with where he was and what his program was feeling like, and is excited to build on that because obviously now he's filling in for Swole on the East, and he's going to have a chance to kind of build as each round goes on, and 11th is a great start for him. And we also talked to Tom Vial. Tom Vial, Red Bull KTM, hole shots, well, it doesn't hole shot the main event. Hole shot went to Hunter Lawrence, but Vial jumps right into the lead, leads the first 2.5, almost 3 laps, and then Hunter got him in the whoops, and he just kind of latched on to Hunter. Eventually, Max Anstie comes up, gets by him, and then we thought that was kind of the podium. It really was what the podium was going to look like for quite a long time. And then Vial, he said that he didn't really say he got lazy or anything like that. He just said he didn't brake, like just kind of missed his brakes going into that corner after the Supercross triple, ran it up the berm, almost went over the berm, but fortunately wasn't too overzealous, I guess, in that regard, and got it stopped in time, but then just tipped over the top and you know, got back going. But he was right there in front of that Hayden Deegan battle that was going on with Moseman right there, and then as soon as those guys were right behind him, he just messed up the whoops the very next lap, and those guys got by. But he also said as well, you know, he's just kind of happy to get the first race out of the way, get the butterflies out of there, and, you know, surprise himself a little bit as well, because he ran that pace very well at the front for, what was it, 12 minutes of the main event before he made that late mistake. So the pace is there. It seems like the fitness is there. It's just eliminating those little mistakes for Tom Vial, and it seems like it's kind of all there. So a lot of like kind of positive storylines for a lot of our debut guys here tonight. You know, obviously we just walked by the Phoenix Honda tent, and Caden Braswell missed the main event, but he's learning, and I don't think that it was necessarily expected of him to jump in and be great here. I think he's trying to get his feet wet and learn a little bit. Wild night for Cody Schock to run into the tunnel and somehow still make the main event out of the last chance qualifier with a mismatch of parts on this Phoenix Honda. And that was a wild night. So just, man, storylines aplenty here. A wild opening round of the championship for the 250 East guys. And of course, Hunter Lawrence starts it off with a win. Max Anstie looked great all day. Jordan Smith looked great as well. Didn't talk to Nate Thrasher because he looked like he was pretty much out of here. I don't blame him. I mean, not the way he wanted to start his championship. So yeah, that's kind of the 250 class, 450 class as well. You know, good racing. Seemed like we're going to have some really good battles there in the 450 class, and it just kind of dissipated after the restart. But like I said, it's great to see that Ferrandis is at least reasonably okay. So I think that's the biggest storyline to take away, is that Ferrandis is okay, and that's it. That's done and dusted here in the great state of Texas for the first of 2 rounds in Texas. We're coming back to Dallas in a few weeks, but that's Houston. Yeah, wild night, fun times. Great times at NRG Stadium, and big shout out to Race X Suspension for backing us here on the Weege Show wrap up here from NRG Stadium. Thanks, Weege, for tossing it to me. A little bit of reporting here from the pits. I'll send it back to you guys. Thanks for watching the Weege Show, and we'll see you next week.